All right, perfect. We are now recording. So, welcome everyone. Just want to reiterate this is going to be for setup of enterprise reporting. If you've not yet navigated down the road of enterprise reporting, there are some security pieces that have to be handled first so that you can see and be able to manage enterprise reports and then to be able to run enterprise reports. So we want to make sure that you have that kind of security set, you have those page permissions available, and that you can get to the enterprise reporting area. So let's first start off with where is enterprise reporting located? It is a native feature inside of PowerSchool that lives under system reports. So if you click on system reports, you should have a tab that says enterprise reporting. Depending on if you have access to manage these reports, run these reports, or do anything with these reports, you will have to look at the security settings, which we'll look at, and your screen could look very different depending on what reports you may or may not have installed for yourself. There are some reports that come native from PowerSchool, and if you have not touched enterprise reporting from the moment that we incepted this as a state, you might already have some upgrades to them that you don't know about. So on the page, there's kind of two pieces to the functionality. You have the reports that can be ran if you have edit access to this page, and you have reports that can be added. So if you were to look at the added or the add button here, you might see reports listed. As PowerSchool updates the native reports, and when I say native reports, some of these that they have pushed out: student attendance, teacher attendance, absences by grade, incidents, current grades, and student demographics. Notice you see three different versions of student demographics. So when we first took on PowerSchool, there was the student demographic enterprise report that was already there. And so it lives in this list area. Well, about a few months after we went live with it, Jason Springle did an update to the student demographic one that got pushed to everyone. And it's core, it's everybody who uses PowerSchool. And so I had pulled down this plus or new one. And then after that, there was a version 1.1. Now, as you pull these reports down, you can go in and inactivate any old ones that you don't want to be able to run anymore so that it doesn't clutter up this page. So once you get the idea of how to get to the reports to this page, you can activate and inactivate them, which basically takes them from here and throws them back to this drop down. Here in hopefully in the next month or so, we'll have a new core version of PowerSchool 22.7 where they do actually make updates to all 5 of these reports that are the native ones that will be going to a version 2.0 because Jason, and he talked about it in the insider video, if any of y'all watch that when he puts them out once a month ish. He talks about what he did to improve these reports and make them a little more user friendly, just updating some of the Oracle qualities inside of them. So you'll see that I have some here already that have been pushed into this pilot server. The historical grades version 2.0 is there, and the standard grades 2.0 report is there. Notice that in this list, after reports are built and where are they built, they're actually built in the Apex Application Express piece of Oracle that lives, and we're going to talk about how to get there. They live over in that area. But once reports are created and installed in that area, they then come to this report name list in the sys side for you to activate for your end users to use. So if you see list of reports here that you want to show up for your people to run, all you have to do is choose. So I'm going to choose the historical grades version 2.0. I choose what category. If I want a description like you'll see in this grayed out area, I can put whatever describing it is that it's going to pull. I can choose which one of these lists, and I've had people ask, can I change these categories? No, those are just kind of embedded in there, so they either need to fit attendance, discipline, grades, health, or it's a list of whatever data you want. You can choose where it needs to go, so since this is a grades report, I'm going to choose grades, and then I'm going to move it from a not published report to a now published report. So this is a report that PowerSchool has already loaded into Apex for all users everywhere for PowerSchool. You just make the choice to publish it for your users to be able to use or not. So when I hit save, now you'll see I have historical grades version 2.0 listed right here as a report I can run. Well, if that means that's overtaking some other report that I don't want to use, so let's just pretend it was stored student grades. I'm not going to unpublish publish this, but let's pretend it was the one I wanted it to replace. I can delete and I can edit. What I like to do is just unpublish it. So if I wanted to unpublish, and then when I go and refresh, the end users will not have access to that report anymore, and I could come back here at any time and republish it. I, as a manager of enterprise reports, can see what's been published and unpublished, and you see it by this checkbox to know, hey, any of these with the green checks, end users can run. If they don't have the green checks, only I, as the manager, can run. When it comes to running these reports, and if you've received any of the emails that I've sent in the past couple months about Career Tech, you've got the Career Tech credential data that's a new list report. And then we have the program declarations, which I haven't downloaded because I want to use some examples to show you some stuff. It's a matter of just clicking on the name. Once you click on the name, it actually sends you over into that Apex application, because if you'll notice, it changes the URL. And there is we all have the super secret URLs of how to go to get to things like DDA, how to get to Apex, how to get to enterprise reporting. Sometimes we forget what the URL to get into the actual application of Apex is. And here's my trick that I tell everyone. If you ever forget what the URL is, I'll show you later, you can always go run an enterprise report and capture it. Basically, it's doing this nomenclature right here of putting that :8443/ords into your URL on the sys side that will pop you into the application access URL. So as we get there and I show it to you, if you ever forget it, all you have to do is open an enterprise report and you'll see what that URL is that you need to navigate to. So that's what it takes to run a report, bare basics. If you get it published in there, if it's a native one that PowerSchool has, that's how you get it published on the live side and it usable. But the question is, if you have this SQL file that is a report that you want to install and make available, how do you go about doing that? Well, before we go down that road, let's talk about what it takes to have that access. So there's a couple of places that we need to look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate, and I'm at District Office, but I'm going to go to System. And I'm going to first start under Security in my Roles Administration. And I'm going to go to User Access. So I'm looking at all of my tables right here. And one of them right here is this, Manage Enterprise Reports, which, by the way, if you come to the user access roles and you don't see all of these columns and you're like, hey, Stacy, how did you do that with your screen? Configure table. What all do I want to see here? Like they've added something in new, so I want to add that in, submit. Because I want to see anything checked against all of these roles. And in this one right here, it's going to be the Manage the Enterprise Reports. So you'll notice that right now, the only one that has that right is the District Administrator Big PowerSchool user. Okay, I'd be very cautious at who all you give that access to, because when it says manage, if they go in and delete or they get into Apex and do something detrimental, you're going to have to get support involved to get all of that back. So if I click in, I'm just going to go into the District Administrator role. You'll actually know that in the roles configuration, you have an enterprise reporting tab. So you have the managing of enterprise reports checked here. And by default, if you manage, you can then access all of them. But let's say I have a counselor that needs to be able to run grade reports. Well, I don't need to mark them as a manager. I just need to give them access to the certain areas of enterprise reports. For nurses, you want to give them access just to the area to pull those health reports. And I'm going to lead you through some health reports today that they have been prefaced with that you will be providing them, because they're great things in the data that they've been wanting to get that, in my opinion, don't come well through those system reports that they have built in. So your first order of business is to, one, see who has that Manage Enterprise Reports. Make sure you've got that under control. And then on all of your other roles, if you haven't built out your roles extensively as I have here, if you need to build out a role that just says enterprise reporting health, enterprise reporting this, enterprise reporting grades, You can do that and then attach those roles, or you can set it up for a role that you've already predestined here. So for example, counselor. Let's say I want to give counselors access to all of the grade enterprise reporting. So I would come over here to enterprise reporting, and I would just check which one of these areas that you saw on that page I want to give them access to run. And it gives them access to run any of those reports in that predefined area. So in my situation, I've given counselors access to run attendance reports, anything under enrollment, anything under grades, and anything under list. The ones you know you want to be very cautious with, of course, are going to be your discipline and your health, to make sure you have the access to those. And if I'm not mistaken, none of this comes pre-configured. So if you haven't gone in and checked any of these on enterprise reporting for roles, they should kind of be natively blank, except for your district PowerSchool user that's going to have that manage enterprise reporting. So that's your first key, is to turn on manage enterprise reporting so that somebody can turn reports on to publish. And then who gets to actually run the reports once they're in there, tie those back to whatever role. And then once you have those roles defined, it's just a matter of adding those roles to your staff members. So if I had myself, that pretend myself is the counselor at such and such school, then I'm going to come to my security settings. I'm going to come to my admin access and roles. And whether it be the role that you have just added that tab to, or it be a role that you just created specifically for enterprise reporting, you hit that add, you hit whatever school, and then you go find the role. So in this case, it was counselor. And you attach that to them, so that then turns on those reports and allow them to pop up so that they will actually be able to run. So enterprise reporting is all ran through roles administration. Now, how do you actually give access to those who can manage access to Apex to build and manipulate reports? Because you can actually have access to Apex without having the access to all of that in the SIS side, because it's through an application that's external to the SIS per se. So if I'm still in this area of security for a staff member, if you want to give a staff member access to Apex to either one, just install reports that we share out, or two, maybe you do have that person on staff who is good with SQL, who can go in and match these tables and build a report for you. It's all controlled through this applications tab that you see on all of your staff records. So if I click to applications right here, you will see this is where this Oracle Application Express account, that's what Apex is. That is where you turn that on for a user. When you check this box, you will then be presented with a username to set up, a password, email, all the information that you would want to set up for an Apex account. So if I wanted to give someone else an Apex account, or this is even what I have to do, because I'll be very honest, sometimes I use this so infrequently and it makes you change your password so frequently, I'll forget what my password was to get into the program. And you're like, well, Stacy, how do you reset a password in? Because you notice this is hard coded now. Like, I can't, even though that box is there, I can't just go change things. So the trick is, if you ever need to reset your password for Apex so you can get in there, you uncheck this box to take permissions away, submit it, come right back to it, check it again, and then all of these will be fields that you can then edit. You just set yourself a new password and go to the account. So if I were to start it from scratch, so I'm going to go and choose another Royster. And it's going to pull over to this. So notice no checkbox here. Again, tie back to what you've given them. And this is going to be an admin. It has to be someone who has admin access. This person does not have admin access. They have basic teacher access. So if you did want to give them access to Apex, one of the first requirements is they actually have to have an admin account. So if I were to give an admin account, or I'm just actually going to go to a person who has an admin account. First, let me get on that tab so it goes back and forth. So let's say I go to this user who does have an admin account. You see now that the box is available to be checked. So if I check that box, now it pops me up a username, and basically it's going to pull that username from whatever's over in that admin account, and you set the password in here for them. So if you need to go from straight bare bones to give somebody access to be able to get into the Apex application to load, import these files that are being shared, this is how you get them access to that site. So now, how do I get to that site? Let's say you've gone through, you've given them access to manage the reports, you have created them an account in Apex right here. Now you need to get them to Apex because I have just emailed you this great medication report and I need you to install it for all of your users. How do we go about doing that? Well, first we have to navigate to that website. So you're going to go to the URL. I'm going to close that out. I'm going to back everything up back to the .com of your URL. You do :8443/orgs. So that is the same thing that populated earlier when we went to run that original enterprise report. You just don't need the stuff after the orgs. And when I hit enter, yes, I want to leave, it's going to bring up this page right here. So that's what I was saying. If you ever forget that, just go back, run a report, and back it up to the orgs area. So how do we get into this? What is this workspace? So everyone's workspace is PS, PowerSchool. So that you'll need to know because that's not written down anywhere. So our workspace is PS. Your username is the username that you created in your admin tab for security that feeds over to the Apex Applications tab of your staff record. The password is going to be whatever password you set up. Once you get in, here's the application. So let's say now you've been tasked with downloading a report. So if any of you have your access, we're about to go live through the demonstration. If you want to download this report with me, I'm going to share the list with you. So let me pull over this screen. Most of you have seen this spreadsheet. I'm going to put it in chat, so I'm going to give you a second to navigate to it, because I want to explain how I'm sharing these reports out with you. And just on a side note, if any of you have the link to my old spreadsheet of reports, this is a new one that has more things on it than the old one from back when I was at Opelika. This is the new state-driven one that has more on it right now. I want you to navigate to line 33 because the first thing that I want everybody to install is this medication report for their nurses. So just as with any other report that I put in this spreadsheet right here, I do 3 links within it for the majority of all of them. The first link is going to be the actual file. So these are SQL files. When you download these from external places, and I'm going to show you where I got this report, because this is one that was actually developed by Jason Springle that lives on PowerSource. When you originally get these reports, they typically come in a zip file. So do plugins. Plugins you don't unzip to install. These you have to unzip because you've got to get to the actual SQL file inside of them. Here's the other thing about these reports. Do you see how there's a name to it? That it says page and it's got this 24670. So that's like an ID number for these reports. One thing that is a very cautious thing to know is that you don't ever want to install a report that has an ID number that's the same as a report you already have installed. Because if that happens, that means it's going to override and replace that original report, which is not what you want to do. So sometimes you have to make sure you check that so that you know if you need to go in and edit that report before you actually install it to give it a different ID number, because you do not want to overwrite. We are going to be very purposeful with the ones that we develop here at the State Department to push out using certain nomenclature that we know nobody else is using, and we're going to caution everyone to not use those same range of numbers. And we'll talk about those. Well, I guess I can go ahead and show you in the let me find it, the declarations report. So if you look at the declarations report for CTE, notice that that started in the 500,000s. So that's the number you're going to see us using here at the State Department, are these 500,000 series right here. So this is 5,001. If you have any that you are creating on your own, I'm just going to ask, don't use within that range. Hopefully we will not create 100,000 of these reports, but that's the range we're going to use, or the 500,000s range for these reports. Ones that you see from the common people, I'm going to tell you, Jason Springle is a name you'll want to know because he works for PowerSchool. He is a PowerSchool evangelist, and he loves to create enterprise reports and put out on PowerSource for everyone to help. There's a ton of them that I'm going to show you a little later that will probably benefit your users. So I'm going to come back down to this medication report. So the first thing you're going to see is, like I said, that SQL file that you're going to need to download. The second, I do give you a link to a preview, so you can click on this and see what the report is going to look like. This is what it's going to look like as it pulls all the data in. The third link is going to be to a document that kind of walks you through the process once you're in Apex. And yeah, these are old pictures. They've actually updated Apex here recently, but same steps that will walk you through how to get it installed and publish it once you gain access to Apex. Now, I do have a YouTube video that walks through the security side of making sure you have access to it, but I don't like just putting that out there for anybody because not everybody needs to know how to access Apex. Only those who need to know are going to get that. Once you have access to Apex, then these are the steps that you follow to get that report in there. So I'm going to come over here, and if I wanted to get this report, all I would do is click on this link, click on the file. You get this right here, and don't try to do anything with this. And sometimes it gives you the black screen and just says something like no preview available, just download it. All you need to do is download it. So I've got that file right here sitting in my downloads. And then I'm going to minimize this out. And actually, I'm going to pop back open my SIS. Because I think I've already installed the medication report here, and if I have, I want to grab another one real quick just to show, for example. But you have your medication report ready. So yeah, I've already installed the medication report. So I'm going to grab, because I put the credentials report in here, but I did not put the, go back here. I have too many tabs open, y'all. Let me go back here and grab that program declaration one because I have not installed it yet. So I'm going to go here, here, and download. You do this with your medication, or if you haven't done the CTE one, you can do it as well. All right, go back in here. So step one, once you're in the Apex program, you click on App Builder. Step two, and very, very important, you go into 100, not 200. 200 is where PowerSchool publishes their stuff to. The stuff the company natively does in there goes into 200. You don't touch 200. You touch 100. And all of that, again, is in that step-by-step guide that I have for you. Click on the 100. You want to import this. So you're going to come over here to the right and click Import Report. It defaults to export. Not sure why. Click on Import. Choose your file. So I'm going to go to my downloads, and I should see it at the top of the page. So it is, and again, they're not named very pretty. You've got those numbers, so you'll have to know which one you're putting in. So I'm going to grab this one, which is my program declarations. If you're working with your medication one, go grab it. Click Open. Basically, it should come where you can take the defaults. You want the database application, page, or component. We're guaranteeing that character set, and you're just going to next your way through this. So I'm going to go next. The file export has been imported successfully. If you wish to install, just click the next button. Hit next. When you install a page having the same ID, it is deleted and the new page is installed, which is why you've got to be very careful. So watch those IDs. And then I'm just going to install this page. And then that's it. Now, you can hit run page from here if you want to, or you can come back to your SIS, back to the Enterprise Reports page, and now the second piece of that is for you to publish it. Because once you did that installation, what you've done is you have placed it under this add button, and it now lives under here. So do you see that I now have a report that says Student Career Tech Program Declarations version 8/24/22. We're dating them. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to choose what category we put it on. And remember, it's important because you're guaranteeing security rights for these categories. So make sure you put it in a place that you actually gave the person access to run it. So I'm going to put this under a list, and I'm going to move it from not published to published. And I'm going to save. So now I have a new report right here of Student Career Tech Program Declarations that I can come in here and click and then run however I need to in here. Now, each report inside of here runs slightly differently depending on what tables and what parameters are put in here. In this particular report, a lot of people come to it and go, there's no data. And they say that in a lot of these reports they run, because some of these reports need a trigger before you start seeing any data inside of it. So in this one, the trigger happens to be the school year. I want to know anything that was declared in 22-23 or anything that was declared in 21-22, because for those of you who haven't emailed and asked me yet, PowerSchool for credentials and for declarations are year specific. That's why we give you a view and aim where you can see them all at one place, but I digress. You got to choose your year here. So I'm going to look at everything that was entered last year, and notice as soon as I pop that up, I then have these results that I can then download, filter, export. You have all of these different options inside of here to filter them, to add more columns if it's a report that we've given you more columns for, and things such as that. So let's say you've installed your medication report. So I'm going to close out of that report, and I'm going to navigate to my medication report. It's under health. So I'm going to click on the medication report, and notice it's populating things out of the box. So I don't have to worry about doing a year or anything like that. We pre-built it, or Jason in this case has pre-built it with filter to say, all right, show me any medication that has an end date within the next 5 years. And so you start seeing any of this information right here. So if I have this information, I can then do whatever I need to with it. So your nurses have been asking for reports that really pull all of those tables in health. Well, this medication one will fill that and anything else they want in here. So how do you get other stuff? Like, what if I have this, but I want to add in the notes? Like, I really want to know what the nurses put in that notes area for my documentation. Well, once you have these reports, one of the biggest actions I tell people to do is investigate what other columns you have available to you. So I hit actions and I do select columns. Notice I have the columns that are not displaying but are at my leisure to use, and then what is displayed in the report. So you can reorganize these. You can add more things in here. So notice this one has a ton of other items because they join quite a few tables inside of there. So let's say that I want to add the notes. So I'm going to move it over, and let's see, what else do I not have? It's school name, and move that over. And let's say I really want the school name to be over there listed by the student name. So I'm going to grab the school name and use this up arrow to start bumping it until I get it. Whoops, move it back down after the name. And then I'm going to hit apply and watch my report re-render. So now I can see the names of the kids, what school they're at, what medication they're taking, and now my notes. So you can just keep pulling in whatever you want. If you want to filter these and say, okay, let's go to filter, let it spin. I can choose any of those columns to then filter on. So let's say I only want to look at school name, Opelika High School. Apply. it re-renders. So it constantly re-renders those reports. So let's say they've gone in, they've got their data, and they now want to do something with it. Actions, download. Here are your options. You can print this out as a CSV so that you can work it into some type of Sheets application. If you want it as a PDF, you can print it out. You can even have it emailed to people. So if you wanted to, as a district person, create this report and email it to another user in the district who might not have access to run this report, that's an option inside of here as well. So there's a lot of power inside of these enterprise reports, and a lot of enterprise reports that already exist that give you really good information. So I do have, let me go back to my sheet. If you look throughout this set of reports, a lot of these are object reports, report card reports, things such as that, but there are also a lot of enterprise reports on there, and I try to state on them when they are enterprise reports, because I want to think there's, here's an assignment report inside of there and so forth. So an assignment and scores report. These are all ones that you can add inside of there. Another place to go find reports is your Power Source portal. Ooh, Power Source, not the community. So if you go into Power Source and log in and go to community and the Power Source Exchange, use the keyword enterprise report and just search. You're going to see there's 26 results on here. The ones that I tell you, and yes, random users like you and myself put some on here that are beneficial. I've grabbed some personally that other people have built, but one that you really want to watch are any that are created by Jason Springle. So if I just filter even more by created by and just put Jason, you're going to see the ones that he has built that are really great. So like here's another one that I'm going to highly suggest you use for your nurses, which is a health concern report that pulls in way more tables than what a basic one is. And one thing that I like about his that he's uploaded here, he tells you what tables and what fields he has joined together in these, so you know the data you'll be able to retrieve from these reports. You would just download the file. It's going to come as a zip file. Again, unzip it, extract that data, and put that SQL file inside of there. You can even watch this file to know if he ever does an update to it. He'll post it on here, and you can come grab the new file, install it in, and unpublish the other one. So highly suggest looking at some of these because, like I said, there's some pretty cool stuff on there. There's one that he's got that's called an attendance calendar. Now, I'm trying to go and recode this to put it to our Alabama state codes, but I'll show you what it is. It actually pops a calendar up that shows you the kids who are absent on that day that have been marked in the SIS. So like I can hover over today and see that these are the students. And yes, if you have 500 kids, it will have 500 kids on there. But you can just hover and see the who's, the what's going on. Just a different view. Enterprise reporting is one of those things that's a really underused tool that we have that we need to learn more about as a state. So the first step for all of us getting better with this is knowing how to get permission to it, how to get it where they can click the buttons to run it, and how we can get some that we are building and sharing out to you. So like I said, we'll have other webinars that will go more in depth about all the fancy fun stuff you can do inside of these enterprise reports because it's got great flashback features, things such as that. And then we'll do the upper high level one for the tech directors and for all the our administrative folks, how to start building these and start playing with those tables to get the data that you want for your district that we might not have provided for you. So that is the overview from top to bottom of enterprise reporting. You know, if you have any questions, reach out. I'm going to stop the recording, but I am going to go through the chat and open it up for Q&A. So let me stop the recording.